What's up, YouTube? I'm doing the outer tie rod on a Toyota Highlander, and I have the wheel off, as you can see. I also have the wheel turned, so I have easier access to it. And for starters, I have to remove this nut, which is a jam nut. It just holds it, so I have to back this off. Not too much, I just have to crack it loose. Once it cracks loose, that's it. I'm not backing it out or anything, just crack loose. I'll show that in a minute. And then at the bottom here, I have to remove this castle nut and use the ball joint separator tool to separate the ball joint from the knuckle right here. Now this nut right here shouldn't be too tight. It's a 22 mil. I get my wrench on, and I just want to crack it, and just like that, you see that turn, that's loose. I'm just gonna, not completely tight, but I'm just gonna put it back right where it was. That's it. So we're pretty much just making sure we could crack this loose, and that's it. And if the whole thing starts turning, it has the notch right here and one at the bottom that you could actually fit another size open end in it to hold it, and you could actually hold it like so while you crack this loose. Now I gotta remove this pin. There's actually a few ways to remove it. You could just break it off and pull it out on the other end. So once I broke it off here, then I'll go in the back and I'll stick a pick in it and I'll just pry it out. So pretty much that's how it is. Stick my pick in. Pry on it. Once I get it out far enough, I could stick my pliers in and I could finish taking it out. Just like that, it's out. And I just want to make sure there's nothing left in there. Now this nut, this castle nut, is a 17 millimeter. And I'm just gonna use my impact to crack it loose. That's what I have handy right now, but regular hand tools could be used. Open end, well, you would use a close end, fit over it, and crack it loose. Just put the castle nut back on. So when I pop this off and it separates, it doesn't go flying. The nut would actually hold it. There are a few ways to separate this, to separate the tie rod from the knuckle. And one way is to use a separator tool like this, a fork. And how this works is slide it in like so, and you use a hammer on this end and bang this end with a hammer, and what it does, you see it's tapered. As it pushes in, it opens up this gap and separates it. The thing about using this tool, if you use it, you damage the boot. So if you're just removing it and you're gonna reuse the tie rod end, you might not want to use this tool. This tool is mainly if you're gonna replace it. Now, another method is to use a two-jaw puller, which is this right here. And the way this works, you hook it to the knuckle like so, You make sure it's hooked in right here. Same thing on the opposite side, and you line this threaded part up with the bottom of the stud like so, and you tighten on the bottom. So the setup is like so. You have it up top, it's clamped in, you have this lined up in the center of this stud, and you would just tighten on the bottom, and as you tighten this in, it pushes the stud upwards and it separates it. That's another way to do it. And then this way is to get a ball joint separator, and all these you could get from like Harbor Freight or AutoZone, local auto parts store. But this separator, the way it works is you fit the upper end, which looks like a fork, and it's also tapered, but you fit it in like so. Once you fit it in like that, this piece rests on the stud, and as you tighten on the handle, it's gonna push this end down, and it pivots right here. So it pushes it down. As this goes down, it pivots and push this stud upwards, and that's what's going to separate it. But now to use this tool, you don't want to put an impact wrench on it and just tighten it to push this down and try to force it out. With this tool, there's a method to it. You want to tighten on this bolt, and when you tighten the bolt, then you want to get a hammer and you want to hit the knuckle right here. You're not hitting the tool, you're not hitting the tie rod, you want to hit the knuckle right here. And as you hit, you tighten some more. Not by hand, you're using the tool to do that. But as you hit, you tighten some more, and you hit again. So that's a 19 mil. So I'm just putting some tension on it. Then I would hit right here. Tighten some more. There you go. Popped right out. Pull the tool out. I could back this nut out, and it's separate. So now from here, what I would do, I'll hold this nut and I'll back this out, but I try to keep this nut exactly where it is to kind of keep your alignment. You're gonna have to do an alignment afterwards, but you want to still have it close. So I keep this nut where it is, don't move it, and I'll back this out. What I'll also do is, the stud is facing downwards, so as I turn, I'll count the amount of turns. So remember, keep this where it is, and then I'll turn this, and I'll go 1 turn, 2, 3, and just keep going just like that all the way to the end. And you want to count how many turns you did. So when you put the new one on, you're putting it back on with the same amount of, it should be the same amount of turns or very close, and that way you know it's decent enough for you to drive to an alignment shop and get your wheel alignment afterwards. And here I'm matching up the old one with the new one, and they look identical. The new one is Moog. I actually like using Moog products. Moog among some other brands, but I like the brands that have the grease fitting, so that way whenever I do an oil change, I just pump new grease in and the old grease would actually get pushed out. and these are side specific on most vehicles. So this one says L, which is the left side. So you just want to make sure you match it up with the one you took off, and make sure that it's the same shape, same curve. That way you know you're putting the correct one on the right side. And also, when I took the old one off, I got about 13.5 turns. So I should get roughly 13 turns putting it back in. So right now I got it locked in, and I'm gonna go one. By locking it in right here, it's maybe about a half a turn already. So that's the half. 1, 2, 3, 7, 12, and it's almost touching that nut. So I got 13, and it ended up like so. So all I'll do is just twist this to line it up, to have it flush at the bottom. So the alignment is pretty much gonna be where it was before I took it off. So that's in. Have that lined up, and it came with a new nut, Newcastle nut. Put that on, and when you tighten it, you just want to make sure the hole lines up so you could get the cotter pin through. So you want to make sure it's tight, and if the hole doesn't line up, you want to go forward. You don't really want to back the nut out. You always want to go forward until the hole lines up. So like that, it's lined up. It's just to put the pin in. Got my pin. And the pin doesn't have to be bent perfect. It's just to prevent the bolt from backing out by driving and the vibration. That's it. Now once I'm done with that, then I come back here, and I'm just gonna tighten on this nut, the jam nut, snug it up, and that's it. Brand new tie rod in. It already has grease in it. I'll probably just put the grease gun to it and put a little more grease in it, but that's about it. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.